well, if they add a 20% tariff on that, and now it costs $300 plus your $50 shipping and all that, well, guess what? They can't sell it for $300 because they're losing money. So ultimately, that is going to add to pricing and inflation, regardless of what's said. Okay, from an economic standpoint, that's how these things work. So there is potential for some of these policies to be inflationary. If the immigration policy is actually passed, one of the things that is a catalyst for this is the fact that many of these immigrants, especially ones who may be of opaque status, shall we say, they're working in industries and low-wage jobs, right? So, such as the farming industry, or meatpacking industry, or hospitality, and maids and maintenance. There's also an article that I've read that a substantial number of individuals in the construction industry, in particular, are immigrants. So, if that policy is actually implemented to the full extent, that will create a labor shortage in that, which is going to drive prices up. So there is certainly potential for inflationary pressures in those areas. There's an emphasis on trying to improve housing and create that. So I have this is my thought, but I do think that the housing shortage will continue if they do implement a lot of these strategies regarding immigration, because that is going to create a labor shortage. Additionally, if you have pressure on pricing and interest rates, it's likely that interest rates aren't going to fall as much as expected. Having said that, Trump has indicated a desire to have more influence over the Federal Reserve and monetary policy than is traditionally expected. Therefore,
our interest rate, and I'm caught up pretty low, even though I had to pay a penalty because of it. Aren't interest rates typically where there had been for years around about? We just past 10 years have seen ridiculously low interest rates. I mean, this is where they probably should be, or around where they've averaged over the last 50 years. Am I, you two are
5%.
Yeah, I would agree that they're closer to where they are now, but they're higher than where they've been historically. But the rates that they got, like after COVID and also after the financial crisis, where you're getting mortgages for like 3% or whatever or less, that is not typical, and you won't see those again. Yes.
I mean, I remember watching a movie where it was in the 80s, and they're saying, "Hey, Dad, you got a 5% mortgage. That's something that will never be available again." You know what I mean? In the 80s, 5%.
Yeah. There was if you remember the movie Wall Street, there's a scene where
Wall Street. That's
yeah,
exactly what it
Wall
was.
Street. They were saying he was looking at this apartment, and he goes, "Oh, the real estate agent was going to him and says, oh, I can get you a mortgage 9%. It's like, oh, I'm going to pay cash," and that was considered competitive. My parents, when they bought the house, actually one we have now, they bought it in 1978 before we moved in. They got a mortgage at 9%, and they were ecstatic about that, And that was like, wow, that's amazing. So people kind of forget about that.
30 years ago, I remember I had customers that were paying over 12, 13, 14%, which I thought was holy crap. But seeing 6.5% now.
However, when interest rates were in those higher for real estate and even items, things were less expensive.
Yes.
So it's a combination of both the high price of an item that you're purchasing, whether it's a house or whatever, and a high interest rate that is creating a bubble, creating a huge bubble. And if we lose a lot of tenancy, immigrants, whatever, if we lose a lot of tenancy, we're going to see a bubble, a real strong bubble in multifamily. Because, there'll be fewer people.
Yeah, I do think that the Harris administration had more of an incentive, maybe incentive isn't the word, but they had more of a policy directive to increase some of the housing stuff.